40.
right? But they might do multiple investment, and investment has to be done for all the KYC has to be done for all the investors as well. So for that, to facilitate that, SEBI talks about KRA agencies. So KRA agencies register the customer and then provide one registration number. The customer then code this registration number for all his investment. So for example, I am a small time investor. I keep on investing every month. So every month when I buy a mutual fund, I have to do a KYC. It becomes very cumbersome. So what I can do is I can just obtain a KRA number and then use it for my subsequent investment. Right? So investor in mutual funds must complete the formalities with the KYC registration agency. Also your Aadhaar can be used. So we use sometimes we use our thumb impression to do our KYC because this is linked to the Aadhaar, and by reading our thumb, the information about our name and address can be obtained. So UIDAI, or Unique Identification Authority of India, Planning Commission, Government of India, the eKYC service of the UIDAI has been recognized as valid process for KYC verification. The customer has to authorize the intermediary to access the identity and address data. So your KYC can also be done using Aadhaar. So KYC has to be done for every financial investment. All kind of financial investments require KYC to be done. So investors subscribe to NPS. NPS is a national pension scheme. Again, part of a financial intermediation. So even if you're investing in NPS, KYC needs to be done. So investors subscribing to NPS will have the KYC process conducted by point of presence service providers. So two sets of proof of identity are required, with one being retained by the service provider and other forwarded to the central record keeping agency of NPS. Then, as investors may deal with multiple capital market intermediaries, SEBI has introduced a centralized KYC, which we spoke about. Centralized KYC is KYC done with the KRA. तो हर बार KYC करने की जगह आप एक बार KYC कर सकते हैं KRA registration agency के साथ. So a registration agency that maintains and makes available the information provided by customers to intermediaries covered by the scheme. So other mandatory requirement, important points to be filled in application form to avoid KYC rejection. There are restrictions on the number of joint account holders, right? So you can maximum have 2 joint account holders in any kind of investment, whether it is investing in a mutual fund or buying shares or even opening account. So 3 से ज्यादा joint holders नहीं हो सकते. एक तो first होगा और 2 और joint holders. So to avoid risk or to minimize the risk, they cannot be more than 3 holders in any kind of investment. Then the name of the holder is used to create the investment record, and all payouts such as dividend, interest and redemptions are made to the first name holders. Details of all joint holders are, however, maintained in the records. Fixed deposits, the senior citizen saving account and national schemes can be held only by 2 holders. An NPS account or all your pension accounts are held by single person. So even your PPF account is a single account. So NPS account is held in the sole name of the subscriber. In case of mutual fund, shares and bonds, demat accounts and saving account, maximum number of holders is 3. So in today's time, The bankers also look at handling investment. So, if you look at the course, name of the course, it says, what is the name of your course?
Retail banking and wealth.
Sorry?
Retail banking and wealth management.
Wealth management.
Health management. Yeah.
CBWM.
Yeah, CBWM, banking and wealth management. Yeah. So apart from selling the deposit products, you guys will also be required to advise and sell the investment products, right? So for that, even for that, you'll have to require to get you need to get the KYC of the customer done. So investment advisors must ensure that they obtain sufficient and appropriate information from clients that enable them to assess accurately the risk of a client. So you're supposed to collect sufficient information, process to assess risk profile of the customer, just like the way we classify the customer based on the risk profile, and communicate the result to the customer. So information to be collected. Now, when we are looking at risk, we have to look at the risk from the customer to the bank, also the risk from the investment to the customer. So customer अगर पैसा invest कर रहा है, तो अगर shares में invest कर रहा है या market में invest कर रहा है, there will be a lot of risk there. So we have to look at that risk as well. तो वो risk कैसे पता चलेगा? Only when we have adequate information about the customer, we will be able to know the risk. So the investment advisor should ensure that it obtains about the client such information as is necessary for the purpose of giving investment advice, including the age, investment objective, time for which they wish to stay invested, and purpose of the investment. You also need to know the income details, existing investments and assets, risk appetite and tolerance, liability and borrowing details. So that's why we call the people who work in do this job in the bank as relationship managers, because you need to know the customer very well to be able to advise and sell him the investment product. So you need to obtain all information about the customer, and then based on this information you'll do a risk profile. So risk profiling in the sense what type of risk the customer can take. So the investment advisor should also ensure it has a process by assessing the risk a client is willing and able to take, including assessing a client capacity for absorbing loss, identify whether client is willing or unable to accept the risk of loss of capital, appropriately interpreting client response to questions and not attributing inappropriate weight to certain answers. The risk profiling tool used should be fit for the purpose, any limitation identified and mitigated. Any questionnaire should be clear and expressed in a language that the client can understand. Okay. So ये थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल हो गया, मैं थोड़ा सिंपल भाषा में समझा देती हूँ. When आप पैसे से डील कर रहे हैं तो पैसे में रिस्क है. कस्टमर एक रिस्क पोज करता है बैंक पे. कस्टमर क्या रिस्क पोज करेगा? मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग, टेररिस्ट फाइनेंसिंग, टैक्स इवेजन का रिस्क है. उसके अलावा जब कस्टमर का पैसा इन्वेस्ट हो रहा है मार्केट में, तो कस्टमर को भी रिस्क है. कस्टमर को मार्केट रिस्क है, इन्फ्लेशन रिस्क है, काउंटर पार्टी रिस्क है, राइट. तो हमें हर तरीके की रिस्क को समझ के आगे काम करना है. ठीक है. ये तो हमने देखा है कि रिस्क और रिटर्न का डायरेक्ट रिलेशनशिप होता है. कोई रिस्क नहीं है तो कोई रिटर्न नहीं है. नो रिस्क नो रिटर्न. तो रिस्क तो लेना है, पर सोचा समझा रिस्क लेना है. That is what financial management or banking is all about. You have to take risk, but the risk has to be understood. The risk has to be understood from the perspective of the risk the customer poses to the bank, whereas the bank also needs to the bank also needs to analyze the risk with the customer investment. So the banker has to analyze both the risk, right? And that is what is financial management all about, or investment management all about. Right? So after doing the KYC and risk profiling, accurately identify the gap between client financial resources, their appetite for risk, and time frame to achieve their objective. तो आज की डेट में ये काम भी आपको करना पड़ता है बैंक में. You have to also advise the customer for investment products, right? So every investment products does not suit every customer. So बहुत सारे investment products हैं, shares भी हैं, bonds भी हैं, mutual funds हैं, फिक्स इनकम इंस्ट्रूमेंट है. पर वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट हम कस्टमर को पहले रिस्क प्रोफाइल समझेंगे और उसके बाद हम कस्टमर को एडवाइस करेंगे. सो दैट इज द role of an investment advisor. He needs to understand the risk a customer can take and then advise him the right kind of investments. So an investment advisor accurately identify gaps between a client financial resources, their appetite for risk, and the time frame to achieve their objective. A younger client focuses on wealth accumulation, and older clients are more concerned with income. A younger client would usually be considered to have a more aggressive risk profile than older clients. So basically, we need to understand the risk the customer has to the bank and the risk the customer can take. So I think we'll take a break here. यहाँ पे ब्रेक लेते हैं and get back by 11:45 and then we will continue. Hello, are we back?
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's start. Okay. So one thing which we need to keep in mind whenever we are selling any kind of bank product is the suitability of the product, right? So I often find similarities in the job of a doctor and job of a banker. You know, so what is the job of a doctor? What is the job of a doctor? Hello?
Knowing the patient's condition.
Correct. Knowing the patient's condition. Now, if he gives you medicine without knowing you, you will never go to a doctor. So if a doctor says, I have, paracetamol, I have antibiotics, I have this, I have that, you will not go to a doctor. What a doctor does is he diagnoses what you will need and then gives you that particular medicine, right? So the doctors ask you a lot of questions to know the suitability of the medicine he is giving you. And I'm sure all of you would be aware that doctors also have targets. You know, doctors also have targets because if they sell a particular kind of a medicine, the pharma companies give them foreign tours and all that stuff, right? But they never let the patients know, right? If they tell the patient, please buy this because if you buy this, I will go for a foreign trip. No patient is ever going to visit them, right? So same is the case with financial advisors. Financial advisors need to find what the customer needs and then give them the products required. So you can't say, sir, please invest in equity, please take this, please. No. Find the customer and then you know the customer and then tell the product which suits him the best. So financial advisors also have to act in the client's best interest, and that is the fundamental requirement of all financial advisors. So the financial advisor must ensure that they have sufficient information to be able to advise the client in order to select suitable investment to meet their needs. तो जब हम फाइनेंशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइस की बात करते हैं, इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइस का मतलब है कि आप कस्टमर को अच्छे से जानेंगे और उसके बाद उसको प्रोडक्ट देंगे. आपके पास प्रोडक्ट है, आपको प्रोडक्ट के बारे में पता है, दैट इज नॉट इनफ टू सेल द प्रोडक्ट और टू गिव द प्रोडक्ट टू द customer. You need to know the customer well to know which product suits him. तो कस्टमर को बहुत अच्छी तरह से जानना है, तो केवाईसी में वो भी आ जाएगा. फिर केवाईसी में आइडेंटिफिकेशन एड्रेस तो हमको पता ही है, पर फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजरी में क्लाइंट की रिस्क प्रोफाइल, क्लाइंट का हिस्ट्री, क्लाइंट की सैलरी, ये सब आपको पता होना चाहिए, तभी आप उसको प्रॉपर इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइस दे पाएंगे. So the investment advice has to be appropriate to the risk profile. So जैसा risk profile है, उस हिसाब से ही आप कस्टमर को वो प्रोडक्ट देंगे. और सेबी ये भी बोलता है कि आप जो भी प्रोडक्ट दे रहे हैं कस्टमर को, उसका सूटेबिलिटी का डॉक्यूमेंट मेंटेन करना है. तो आपने कैसे क्या समझा कस्टमर के रिस्क प्रोफाइल के बारे में, जो आपने कस्टमर को वो प्रोडक्ट दिया, तो वो भी आपको डॉक्यूमेंट करना, मतलब उसका रिकॉर्ड रखना है. You should have a documented process based on client investment objective and financial situation. Also believe that recommendation will meet the client investment objective. तो उसके लिए क्लाइंट को जानना बहुत जरूरी है, बिकॉज जब आप क्लाइंट को जानेंगे तभी उसका इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑब्जेक्टिव जानेंगे और तभी आप उसको ढंग से एडवाइस कर पाएंगे. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू नो द कस्टमर एंड गिव अ प्रोडक्ट विच सूट्स द कस्टमर. So you're required to understand the nature and risk of products or assets selected. तो हमने देखा है different kind of assets have different kind of risk. So can you tell me the risk associated with equity? What is the risk associated with equity?
Profit is not always guaranteed, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
And as a risk of equity, ma'am.
Yes, yeah, risk of equity.
You become one of the owner of the share, ma'am. So if the company is going in loss, you will also be going in loss. The amount.
Yeah, correct. So the risk of the equity is associated with the risk to the company. So if the company is not going well, obviously the share prices will fall. So there's a very high market risk in equity. What about the risk in fixed income instrument? Which is the biggest risk in fixed income instrument? What are the risks in fixed income instruments? No risk, they're risk free. Are they risk free?
Inflation risk.
Yes.
Inflation.
Anyone?
Inflation.
Interest rate.
In, yeah.
Credit risk, liquidity risk.
Right. Credit risk, risk of inflation. However, compared to equity, they have lesser risk, but still they have risk. So basically, when we are advising the customer, we have to know the risk which a customer can take and the risk which the instrument poses. So if there is an old person, senior citizen, he is no longer earning. He's only dependent on the money he has earned earlier. We can't take the risk of losing his money in the stock market. So probably better investment for him will be fixed income instrument, right? So that is what we need to understand. So customer के लिए कौन सा product suitable है वो हमें देखना है उसके risk के लिए. तो कोई अगर रिटायर हो चुका है तो ज्यादा रिस्क नहीं ले पाएगा, इसलिए उसके लिए इक्विटी एक अच्छा इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शन नहीं है, उसको फिक्स इनकम इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स में लगाना चाहिए. सो अंडरस्टैंड द नेचर एंड रिस्क ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स एंड एसेट्स सिलेक्टेड. So whenever a recommendation is given to a client to purchase of a particular complex financial product, such recommendation or advice is based upon a reasonable assessment that the structure and risk reward profile of financial product is consistent with the client experience, knowledge, investment objective, risk appetite, and capacity for absorbing loss. So in simple reason, it means that whenever we are suggesting any kind of financial product to the customer, we should ensure that it is suitable for the customer with respect of his age, his risk profile, his financial position. And that is the work of the investment advisor. तो जो भी प्रोडक्ट हम कस्टमर को दे रहे हैं, हमें हमेशा ये चेक करना है कि वो प्रोडक्ट जो है कस्टमर के लिए सूटेबल हो, कस्टमर के एज के लिए सूटेबल हो, कस्टमर के रिस्क प्रोफाइल के लिए सूटेबल हो, तभी हमें वो प्रोडक्ट कस्टमर को देना चाहिए. Also, apart from acting in client's best interest, financial advisors also need to ensure that they provide sufficient information about their firm and any proposed investment to the client. Ensure that the client has all the information needed to get assured that they are in a position to make a full and informed decision about the suitability of recommendation made. That means whatever product you're giving to the customer, you should ensure that the information about the product is shared by the with the customer. So all kind of risks, all kind of returns should be shared. तो customer को जो भी आप product दे रहे हैं, उस product के सारी information आपको customer के साथ share करनी है. So वही है, banking is not a business of conning. Banking is about knowing the customer well and then giving a product to him. We all know if the money is lying idle, it is a loss for us, right? तो बैंक कोई किसी को बेवकूफ बनाने का काम नहीं है. बैंक में आप कस्टमर के पैसे का किस तरह से बेस्ट यूज हो सकता है वो आप कस्टमर को बताएंगे, क्योंकि आइडल मनी हमने देखा, आइडल मनी जो भी होता है वो वेस्टफुल है. अगर आप अपने पैसे को ढंग से इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं तो आपका लॉस ही है. इसलिए बैंकर का ये काम है कि वो कस्टमर को इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोडक्ट बताए, पर इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोडक्ट जब वो बताए तो ऐसे प्रोडक्ट बताए जो कस्टमर के लिए सूटेबल हो. तो इसलिए कस्टमर को बहुत अच्छी तरह से जानना is very, very important for opening an account and managing the customer's investment. That is what SEBI requires. So regulation requires an investment advisor to disclose to a client or to potential client all material information about itself, including its business, disciplinary history, etc. Any form of remuneration it may receive for any distribution or execution services. Any form of remuneration it may receive from recommending the services of a stockbroker or other intermediary. Its holding or position, if any, in the financial product or securities, which are the subject matter of advice. Any actual or potential conflict of interest arising from any connection with any issuer or product or services. All material facts relating to the key features of the product or security is recommended, and particularly its performance track record. An investment advisor shall also draw the client's attention to the warning and disclaimer, etc. Basically, it means that whatever concerns the customer should be properly disclosed to him when you give the investment advice. So, जो भी product के बारे में जो भी information है, वो आपको customer के साथ, investor के साथ share करना है. और सिर्फ शेयर करने से नहीं चलेगा, you also obtain, maintains records and regulatory reporting. So documentation भी करना है, so paper work भी करना है. So आपने क्या investment advice दी, किस basis पे दी, उसका documentation, customer का KYC, उसका documentation, और the regulator has the authority to come and inspect it. So investment advisors have to put in place record retention policies so that key documents are available for inspection by auditors and the regulators. The regulations particularly specify the retention of the following document. So सबसे पहले you need to have the know your client records of the client. So his name, ID and address. Then the risk profiling. How did you profile? Did you profile the customer based on the risk? And risk assessment of the client, suitability assessment of the advice being provided, copies of agreement with the clients if any, investment advice provided, whether written or oral. So whenever you are advising a customer about any investment, you have to maintain records as well, because these records can be checked by the auditor anytime, by the regulator anytime. So basically it means whenever a banker is advising, giving any investment advice, it has to be based on the suitability of the advice for the client. तो जब भी कोई बैंकर किसी कस्टमर को कोई प्रोडक्ट बेच रहा है, वो प्रोडक्ट कस्टमर से को सूटेबल होना चाहिए, कस्टमर के हिसाब से होना चाहिए. इसलिए आपको कस्टमर के बारे में जानना बहुत जरूरी है. अगर आप कस्टमर को नहीं जानेंगे तो आप उसको सही प्रोडक्ट नहीं दे पाएंगे. इट्स जस्ट लाइक अ डॉक्टर. जैसे डॉक्टर जब आप जाते हैं, the doctor asks you to share a lot of information with him. जब आप डॉक्टर के पास पहले बार जाएंगे तो डॉक्टर आपसे बहुत सवाल पूछेगा, बहुत इंफॉर्मेशन मांगेगा, और उस इंफॉर्मेशन से डायग्नोसिस करेगा अपनी, और उस डायग्नोसिस के बेसिस पे आपको दवा देगा. And that is what financial planning is, or financial advice is. You listen to the customer, you take notes, you ask questions. Based on the information you get from the customer, you make an investment plan, and that investment plan should be suited for the customer. Correct? Also, because it is regulated, financial advice is regulated, so you have to maintain proper records. So the regulations particularly specify the retention of the following documents: rationale for arriving at the investment advice, duly signed and dated; a register or record containing a list of clients, the date of advice, the nature of advice, the product, securities in which advice was rendered, and any fee charged for such advice. All such records are to be maintained either in physical or electronic form and preserved for minimum period of 5 years. An investment advisor has to arrange for an annual audit to test compliance with regulation by a member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India or Institute of Company Secretaries of India. Okay. So can somebody recap? Somebody tell me what we have seen till now. So we were looking at KYC. Why is KYC important and what does it involve? KYC क्या होता है और क्या-क्या पता होना चाहिए हमें कस्टमर के बारे में और क्यों पता होना चाहिए? So please somebody recap. Then I will know whether you have understood or not, or you were paying attention or not. What is KYC?
Customer identification.
Knowing the customer.
Knowing the customer. And why is that you want to know the customer?
To collect all the information about the customer and
Why is that you need to collect all the information about the customer? Why is it important to collect all the information about the customer?
Where the money is coming.
I'm sorry?
Where the money is coming.
Anyone else would like to try? Why is that you need to get the information about the customer or need to know the customer well?
To avoid fraud activity.
Yeah, so one reason to know the customer well is to avoid fraud. Anybody who's opening an account with you, anybody who's depositing money with you, you should know him to avoid frauds and money embezzlement. Yes. What is the other reason you need to know the customer?
to minimize the risks where he is good or bad for our entity.
Yeah, that is it. That is one aspect of it. That is only one aspect of KYC. What is the other aspect?
Ma'am, money laundering.
Yeah, that is, yeah. So we have seen this. You need to know the customer because you want to avoid money laundering and tax evasion and all kind of financial crime. So that is one reason why you need to have a KYC. What is the other reason? Why is that you need to know the customer well?
To take a look out at the transaction monitoring.
Yeah, you need to monitor the transaction. Yeah, correct.
Customer
But
acceptance.
one reason, so what I'm trying to ask is, one reason for doing so is to reduce the risk the customer poses to the bank, the risk of money laundering, the risk of tax evasion. What is the other reason for doing it?
Financial fraud.
फ्रॉड और व्यक्ति की असलियत का पहचान कर सकते हैं इससे।
हाँ?
Ma'am, financial fraud.
हाँ, financial fraud तो एक aspect हो गया, एक aspect वो हो गया, the risk which the customer poses to the bank, तो उसको minimize करने के लिए you will know the customer, you know, need to know his ID address, you know, need to know his financial status, you need to know his occupation. तो ये तो एक तरीका हो गया, एक aspect हो गया. दूसरा reason क्या है for which we need to know the customer well?
मैम ग्राहक और
To give a proper advice on investment.
Correct. So this is what we have been seeing, no? So one reason for doing KYC is to know the customer well, so that you are minimizing the risk which the customer poses to the bank. The risk of fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, terrorist financing. So at one hand, you're doing the KYC to reduce the risk to the bank. On the other hand, you are doing the KYC for giving suitable advice to the bank, to the customer. If you don't know the customer, you will not know what product will suit him. So KYC has two facets. तो KYC के दो क्या बोलते हैं उसको, दो
Aspect.
एसेट को क्या बोलेंगे हिंदी में? रूप है, दो रूप है। एक है कि आपको कस्टमर का जो रिस्क है वो कम करना है, कस्टमर बैंक के साथ फ्रॉड ना कर सके उसको कम करना है, इसलिए आप कस्टमर से ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन लेंगे। दूसरी चीज है कि जब आप कस्टमर को एडवाइस कर रहे हैं तब भी आपको कस्टमर के बारे में सब कुछ पता होना चाहिए। तो केवाईसी के दो ऑब्जेक्टिव है, एक टू रिड्यूस फाइनेंशियल क्राइम एंड द सेकेंड इज टू एडवाइस द कस्टमर ऑफ द सूटेबिलिटी। करेक्ट। तो इतने देर से हम यही देख रहे हैं। क्रक्स अगर आप देखो तो इन सब का जो हमने कल भी देखा और आज भी देखा, केवाईसी का यही है कि दो चीजें इंपॉर्टेंट है, दो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं केवाईसी के। वन, to know the customer so that he cannot commit financial crimes with the bank. The second is to know the customer so that the bank can advise him the right kind of products. Everybody has understood irrespective of the language I've spoken in, because I forget which language I spoke. So I do not know. Please tell me if anybody has language problem, something I spoke in Hindi you did not understand, or something I spoke in English you did not understand. Please tell me, because for me it becomes difficult, you know. तो ये समझ में आया केवाईसी का क्या ऑब्जेक्टिव है? एवरीबॉडी हैज अंडरस्टूड?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
यस।
Ma'am, can KYC be manipulated like in Vijay Mallya case? Bank
No,
or
Vijay
all
Mallya
bank?
actually did not manipulate KYC. He did not manipulate KYC. We knew Vijay Mallya. The only thing, whether Vijay Mallya did it or the banks did it, we wouldn't know. The thing is, the asset which Vijay Mallya had shown were not the assets which belonged to him. So all the aircrafts against which the bank had given him loan were leased. They were not his assets. So
Ma'am, in that case, the bank didn't cross
you can't
verification.
blame Vijay Mallya completely. The bankers also have to be blamed.
Yeah, ma'am, like the bank didn't cross verification of its asset he holding on.
Correct. So we have seen whenever you're doing KYC, you have to verify. You have to verify whether these assets can be sold and the money can be recovered. That was not done with the banker. So you can't blame, in the Vijay Mallya case, you can't blame the bankers alone. The banker, you can't say, so see, Nirav Modi was actually a fraud. But Vijay Mallya, he had sanctioned, these loans were sanctioned to him. The only thing was he was not able to pay that money back. And the bank was also not able to recover because the assets which he had pledged did not actually belong to him. So that in Vijay Mallya case, I personally feel that both were responsible. It was not only Vijay Mallya, the bank was also equally responsible. Yeah. So we have seen, no, whenever you're giving a loan, whatever assets you're taking, you look at the marketability of those assets. You look at how these assets can be converted to cash. But that was probably not checked by the bankers. Okay, anyways. Now, another duty of the regulator is to ensure that the customers' complaints are redressed. मतलब customer ने अगर complaint किया है तो उसको resolution जल्दी मिल जाए, right? So the regulators will have to have a complaint and redressal mechanism also to ensure that the redressal is done of the complaints. So it is almost inevitable that customers will raise complaints against a firm providing financial services. Sometimes a complaint will be valid and sometimes not, but a resolution needs to be provided. So the regulators require institutions to deal with complaints promptly and fairly. Financial institutions should have appropriate written procedures for handling expression of dissatisfaction from complainants, whether the complaint is oral or written, and whether the complaint is justified or not, as long as it relates to the firm's position or failure to provide a financial services. Now, why do you think the regulator should be bothered about complaint redressal? क्यों कंप्लेंट रिड्रेसल में रेगुलेटर को इन्वॉल्व होना चाहिए?
Because if bank will directly deal with the complaint, it will not resolve it easily. No?
Okay, now what happens if the complaints are not resolved properly?
Customer will dissatisfied with the bank.
Okay, what will happen if the customer is dissatisfied?
Will not invest. Will not deposit money with the bank.
Okay,
At
and
bank.
what will happen if the customer does not deposit money with the bank? It is bad for the customer himself, no? He'll not earn any return. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? कुछ और होगा? If customers don't invest, what is the disadvantage? The economy of the country would suffer,
Economy
no?
of the country will fall. No? The growth
Yeah.
of economy will not.
Yes, yeah, correct. So that is why the regulator is bothered, or the regulator ensures that the complaints are speedily resolved with speed, because if the customer does not invest, or if the customer do not keep their money with the bank, the economy of the country would suffer. So for that, the regulator has guidelines. So these internal complaints handling procedures should be provided for receiving of complaints, which is acknowledgement of complaints in a timely manner, responding to those complainants, appropriately investigating the complaints, notifying the complainants on their right to go to arbitration where relevant. So if the customer is not satisfied with the reply he's got, he will have a way to take it further. Right. The regulators have guidelines which say that an employee of sufficient competence was not directly involved in the matter that is subject to the complaint should investigate the complaint. The person charged with responding to the complaint should have the authority to settle the complaint, including offering redressal when appropriate, or should have access to someone with necessary authority. The responses should adequately address the subject matter of the complainant, and where the complaint is upheld, to offer appropriate redressal. The firm decides that redressal is appropriate. The firm must provide the complainant with fair compensation for any act or omission for which it was responsible, and comply with any offer of redressal the complainant accepts. The financial institution should also take reasonable steps to ensure that all relevant employees are aware of complaint handling procedures and endeavor to act in accordance with this. So the regulator is also very clear about solving the complaints in time. So there will be occasion however, where a client is dissatisfied with response to the complaint and wants to take this further by escalating it to the regulator. Clients need to address their complaints to the regulator that has responsibility for that specific area of advice or product. So different functions will be regulated by different kind of regulators. So SEBI, for example, regulates the capital market or the security markets. So SEBI can accept complaints against any market intermediary that is registered with SEBI. This includes investment advisors as well as other participants mentioned earlier. SEBI has developed a web-based system for lodging and tracking investor complaint known as SCORES, which is a SEBI complaint redressal system. Any client with a grievance against a listed company or intermediary can file a complaint using SCORES. SEBI will review the complaint and complainant and then forward to the intermediary, who must respond within a reasonable period that does not exceed 30 days. The intermediary must also record the action taken on scores. RBI, on the other hand, would be concerned with complaints against banks. So RBI has established a banking ombudsman scheme that enables an expeditious and inexpensive forum to banks customer for resolution of complaints relating to certain service rendered by banks. The banking ombudsman is a senior official appointed by the Reserve Bank of India to redressal customer complaints against deficiency in certain banking services. The services is free and maximum compensation can be awarded of 10 lakhs. Then you have the IRDA. What does IRDA regulate? IRDA किसका regulator है?
Insurance.
Insurance का, right? So IRDA will accept complaints against insurers, brokers, intermediaries, and others. IRDA also has an online complaint system known as Integrated Grievance Management System that can be used to record complaints about life and non-life products process of a proposal policy servicing of claims. So IRDA also has its own grievance redressal system. Now, deposit products are banks products, but we also need to know about the investment products because in today's time, the banks distribute various investment products. So the deposit products are governed by Banking Regulation Act. About 80% of the bank resources are contributed by deposit. If you remember the balance sheet of the bank, if you, we have seen where we have seen the assets of the bank and the liabilities of the bank, most of them are in these are financial assets. Bank does not have too much of physical assets. So if you look at a company, assets would be more about machinery and plant, machinery and raw material. A bank, however, most of the assets are financial assets. And similarly, the liabilities for the bank are financial liabilities or the deposit which the bank accepts. So RBI is empowered to regulate and banks are free to work within the broad guidelines of RBI. So in deposit products, the bank should issue a term deposit receipt. If a customer is keeping a deposit with the bank has to give an acknowledgement. Term deposit should be freely transferable from one office of the bank to another. So they should be transferable amongst within the same bank. Disposal instruction of deposit should be obtained in the application form. So if the customer is asking the fixed deposit to be closed prematurely, or if it's trying to withdraw the money, then the bank should have written instruction from the customer. The bank definitely can't close the fixed deposit without the instruction from the customer. So the bank should take this in an application form. Also, to avoid the loss of the customer, the bank should notify the due date of maturity. So the bank should remind the due date of maturity so that the customer can come and take his money back. Otherwise, that will be a loss for the customer. So the customer should come and the bank should inform the customer about maturity of the fixed deposit. Facility to withdraw term deposit. The bank should also have the facility to withdraw term deposit before the maturity date. Penal rate should be known. If the bank is charging any penalty for the customer to withdraw the deposit before the maturity date, the customer should know the penal rate of interest. To avoid money laundering and tax evasion, the RBI says that the bank cannot pay deposit of more than 20,000 in a day. Yeah, so customer cannot be paid in cash a cumulative amount of greater than 20,000 in a day. So we are talking about deposit products. So if a FD matures, the bank has to pay it in by an instrument and not by cash if it is more than 20,000. Renewal of overdue deposit should be non-discretionary and non-discriminatory. So you can't have a criteria for renewing the overdue deposit. If the customer has come in time, the bank should renew this deposit. Bank should also allow addition or deletion of names. So there's a person who's single as of now, so he's opened his account in single name, but then he gets married, he wants to name add his wife's name. The bank should allow it. Also, bank should give acknowledgement at the time of submission of form 15G and 15H. Now, form 15G and 15H are declaration from the customer not to deduct TDS. What's a concept you'll have to understand just a minute. Now, TDS. Have you heard this word earlier? Anyone has heard this word earlier? What does TDS mean? TDS, Akshay, except for Akshay, because Akshay would, we have already spoken about it. What does TDS mean?
Tax deduction.
Tax deduction system.
Tax deducted at source. It means tax deducted at source. So, when do you pay tax? When are you supposed to pay tax? When a transaction is being done. So, for example, you are working somewhere, you earn a salary there. So, your source is the salary. Now, sometimes if your total income exceeds the taxable income, your employer will not give you the entire salary. They will deduct the tax and then give you the net of salary. So what they are doing a TDS. Same is with interest on FD. So interest on FD is taxable. So if the interest on FD is more than 40,000, the bank has to deduct the TDS, right? So if I say, for example, I have a 1 crore FD with the bank at the rate of say 4%, and I'll earn 4 lakh as interest. So the bank is not going to give me 4 lakh. They're going to deduct TDS at the rate of 10% and then give me this 4 lakh. Okay. So the bank is supposed to deduct tax on FD, deduct tax on interest on tax on deduct tax on interest on. Right. So if it is more than rupees 40,000 for people below the age of 60 and 50,000 for people above the age of 60. Okay. So did you understand this concept? What is TDS? Did you understand? Because then only you will understand form 50G or 50.
No, ma'am.
No. Anybody has understood? So when you keep the money with the bank, what are you expecting? क्यों रख रहे हैं आप पैसे बैंक के पास?
Interest.
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 तो बैंक आपको इंटरेस्ट पे करेगा. इंटरेस्ट इज एन इनकम. इंटरेस्ट इनकम है ना? इनकम है तो इनकम टैक्स देना पड़ेगा.
यस मैम.
राइट. तो इनकम टैक्स देना पड़ेगा. तो उस केस में बैंक क्या करेगा? बैंक विल नॉट गिव यू द एंटायर इंटरेस्ट. दे विल डिडक्ट टैक्स एंड गिव यू. That is what TDS is. Okay, but a smaller amount are not considered. Only if your amount is more than 40,000, then you have to pay. The bank would deduct interest, deduct TDS. Okay, let me put it this way. Now, interest is your income. On income, you have to pay a tax. So if the bank pays you the entire amount, there's a probability that you might not pay the interest, might not pay the tax. So the government says that if you earn more than 40,000, the bank cannot give you the 40,000 just like that. The bank will have to deduct the tax and then give it to you, which is known as the TDS. The amount is 40,000 for people who are less than 60 and 50,000 for people who are more than 60. Did you understand it now?
Yes, ma'am.
No, the people who said they have not understood in the last thing. Have you understood?
If it is less than 40,000, they will not deduct.
They will not deduct the TDS. No. The girls who said they have not understood, have you understood it now? So if you have not understood, please tell me if not understood. I will try to explain it again. नहीं समझ में आया तो बताइए. TDS नहीं समझ में आया तो बताइए. Yes, no, maybe. Have you understood? Not understood?
Understood, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
You have still not understood. Okay. Interest, you know what it is. You talk to me directly, because if you go into background, I will not know. So you please speak to me. Do you understand interest? You understand what is interest?
Yes, ma'am.
No, the girl who's, I don't know who was it, but the girl who said she's not understood. Please talk to me, otherwise I will not know. Please come to the forefront and speak to me. Interest समझ में आया क्या होता है? What is interest? Do you know what is interest? Hello, who was that girl who said she's not understood? Please speak with me, otherwise it will remain like that. I will have to break it in parts to make you understand. Do you understand what is interest? So if you're not interested in understanding, then I will move ahead, because if you don't talk, I will not know anyways. So I am assuming that everybody has understood TDS. Okay. Now, yeah, is my assumption correct? Everybody has understood TDS?
Yes, ma'am.
So, so interest is the income which the bank is generating for the customer. And on that, the bank will have to deduct tax if the interest is more than a certain amount. Correct? Now, there might be some customers who might not be eligible to, who are not under the tax bracket. So in India, the tax is charged as per tax bracket. So if you are, if you are, you earn up to 2,50,000. So if you earn up to 2,50,000, you're not supposed to pay any tax. Right? So there might be some, customers whose total income is not more than 2,50,000. So they will come and give a declaration telling the bank not to deduct TDS. Right? So that is given under Form 15G or 15H. तो फॉर्म 15G और 15H कस्टमर का डिक्लेरेशन है, जहां पे कस्टमर बोलता है कि मैं टैक्स लिमिट में नहीं आता हूं, इसलिए मेरा टैक्स मत डिडक्ट करिए. तो अगर बैंक को ऐसा कुछ डिक्लेरेशन मिला है, तो बैंक इसको कस्टमर को एक्नॉलेजमेंट देना चाहिए, और ये फॉर्म जो है इनकम टैक्स अथॉरिटी के पास सबमिट करना चाहिए. सो फॉर्म 15G एंड फॉर्म 15H are declaration given by the customer not to deduct TDS. We have two different forms, because the tax is as per the age. So form 15G is for people who are below the age of 60, and form 15H are for people who are above the age of 60, right? So form 15G and form 15H are declaration by the customer not to deduct TDS. सो फॉर्म 15G और 15H कस्टमर की रिक्वेस्ट है कि मेरे अकाउंट से आप टैक्स मत डिडक्ट करिए। तो अगर कस्टमर, यहाँ पे हम लोग इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग ऑफिसर नहीं बनेंगे, कस्टमर का कितना इनकम है वो हमारे परव्यू से बाहर है, पर अगर कस्टमर हमको फॉर्म 15G और 15H देता है तो हमको उसका टैक्स नहीं डिडक्ट करना है, राइट। तो ये भी गवर्नमेंट का रेगुलेशन है कि अगर कस्टमर ने आपको 15G और 15H दिया है तो आप कस्टमर का टैक्स नहीं डिडक्ट करेंगे एंड कस्टमर को इसका एक्नॉलेजमेंट देंगे, राइट। सो बैंक शुड गिव एक्नॉलेजमेंट एट द टाइम ऑफ सबमिशन ऑफ फॉर्म 15G।
मैम हेलो
यस
मैम, एज लिमिट
60। हाँ,
15G 15H दोनों।
नहीं, 15G इज फॉर पीपल लेस देन 60। जो 60 साल तक, 60 साल तक है उनको 15G देना है, 60 साल के ऊपर वालों को 15H देना है। करेक्ट?
यस मैम।
या सो 15G और 15H एक ही फॉर्म है, बट अगर आप 60 साल से कम है तो 15G देंगे, अगर ज्यादा है तो 15H देंगे। ऑल्सो इफ अगर डिपॉजिट जो है आपका मैच्योर हो रहा है ऑन अ हॉलीडे, then the bank has to pay the interest because the bank will not be able to return the money, so the bank will have to pay interest also on the intervening day at the original contracted rate. So if the noted due date of a term deposit falls on a holiday or a Sunday or a non-work business day, bank to pay interest on such intervening day at the originally contracted rate till the succeeding working day. Okay. Now, as I told you, there are many variants of the saving account. Saving account purpose वही है, but depending on the need of the customer, the form can be, the account can be customized. So RBI, this is a mandate by RBI that the bank needs to open accounts without asking for a minimum balance. So even if the customer cannot keep the minimum balance, the bank cannot refuse opening an account. In that case, the bank should open what is known as the basic saving bank deposit account, where the customer does not need to maintain any minimum balance. So as a part of financial inclusion, banks are expected to offer all customers a basic saving bank deposit account, where there is no minimum balance required to be filled in the BSDBA. So no limit in the number of credit transaction, debits limited to 4. Bank will issue ATM or ATM debit card. No, this is not correct. Charges are applicable to BSBD because they do not maintain a minimum balance. Bank will charge them for providing the services. So this is also one variant of the saving account. When the customer cannot maintain minimum balance, he can open a BSDBA where he will not be required to maintain a minimum balance. As per RBI, all the KYC norms are applicable. So before you open an account, you have to follow the KYC norms. That means you need to know the ID and address of the customer. Customer cannot open more than one saving account with the same bank. The bank should have intra-bank deposit account portability. Portability, I think we all know mobile number portability. What does mobile number portability mean? What does mobile number portability mean?
एक कंपनी से दूसरे कंपनी में मूव करना।
हाँ, मूव तो करने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट इसका अब इसमें आपको क्या फैसिलिटी मिलती है? आपको फैसिलिटी मिलती है कि आपका मोबाइल नंबर चेंज नहीं हो ना।
यस मैम।
आप एक कंपनी का नंबर छोड़ के दूसरे कंपनी का नंबर ले सकते हो, बट यूजुअली नहीं लेते क्योंकि अकाउंट अगर नंबर चेंज होता है देन देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम. सो यू आर लुकिंग फॉर अ यू वांट टू रिटेन दैट नंबर. You might want to change the company, right? So that is mobile account portability. So same can be done in bank account portability, but you can't shift the account from one bank to another. What you can do is you can shift the account from one branch of a bank to another branch or bank of the same bank, right? So intra-bank deposit account portability. The bank also needs to issue passbook facility if opted by the customer. When you are opening the account, you need 2 copies of photograph of all person authorized to operate the account, including Parda Nashin women. So Parda Nashin women are women who always remain in veil. They do not show their face to anyone outside their family. Earlier, banks would open account of Parda Nashi women without taking a photograph. But now RBI has mandated that you need to take a photograph. In that case, RBI says that a female staff can accompany the Parda Nashi woman and get a photograph, but the photograph of Parda Nashi woman is also required. Photographs cannot be substituted. Huh?
Intra-bank deposits.
Intra-bank between 2 banks. Intra is within the bank. So intra-bank. So if you have to move your deposit from one branch to another, you can do it without changing the account number. That is what
For the same bank. For the same bank, ma'am.
Same bank, obviously the same bank.
Okay.
Because the format for a bank account number is different for different banks. So you can move your account from one branch to another without changing the account number. So a saving account can also be opened for a minor. However, the minor account is opened under the guardianship of his parents, and you take the document of his guardian. So guardian photograph should be obtained in case of minor accounts. Terms and conditions should be transparent and made known to all depositors. Brief intelligence transaction particular should be captured in statement of accounts or passbook. Now, this is also important for you because if you don't write proper remark, the customer would come back. It will give rise to more queries. So for example, you have the customer has deposited 5,000 rupees and you just say bank credit. The customer will come back and say, "Kahan se aaya paisa? From where this entry has come?" So it is better to write us, a smart description. So for example, credit by cash deposit. So customer knows that somebody has deposited cash in his account, right? So you should write that when you are passing a transaction, you should write the details correct. The bank is also required to provide monthly statement of accounts. A statement of account should carry address, telephone number of the branch, and ICAR code and IFSC code. ICAR code and IFSC codes are numeric codes to identify the branch. Acceptance of check bearing a date as per national calendar for payment. Multi-city payable of all branches checks issued by CBS enabled branches. So earlier, when the branches were not computerized, the check could be cleared only in that particular city. So for example, I issued a check in Pune, it would be cleared only in Pune. But now with the availability of all the data across the branches, now this Pune check can also be cleared in Nasik, for example, right? So multi-city payable checks issued by CBS enabled branches. Now we have seen certificate of deposit. These are also money market. These are ways for the bank to borrow. So they were introduced in India in 1989. A CD is a negotiable money market instrument. Negotiable means that it can be sold. It is transferable. A CD is a negotiable money market instrument issued by scheduled commercial bank, excluding regional rural banks and local area banks or select financial institutions. They are issued in dematerialized form or as a user's promissory note, issued against funds deposited at a bank, other eligible financial institution, issued for a specified period of time at a market determined discount rate. So we've seen certificate of deposits are issued at a discount rate. That means the customer does not have to pay the face value. he pays a discounted value. So if the CD is say 10,000 rupees, probably the customer has to pay only 9,000 rupees, and 1,000 would be his interest. So face value is payable on maturity by issuing bank or institution. CDs can be issued to individual, corporation, companies, etc. CDs can be issued at a discount of face value. So banks have freedom to issue certificate of deposit based on funding requirements. Minimum deposit should not be less than 1 lakh, multiple of 1 lakh thereafter. The maturity period of CD issued by a bank should not less than 7 days and not more than 1 year. Banks are allowed to issue CDs on floating rate basis. That means the interest rate is not fixed. It can change. Floating means an interest rate which can change. Issuing bank is free to determine the discount or the coupon rate. Discount or the coupon rate is the interest rate. Banks are required to maintain the reserve requirement. That means CRR, SLR on the issue price of the CDs. So for the CDs also, the bank will have to maintain the reserve requirement. So I hope you understand this. Do you understand the last line? What are we trying to say here? Hello? इतना सन्नाटा क्यों है भाई? समझ में आया? तो जो हमने डिपॉजिट देखा था, ये भी व्हाट इज दिस नाउ? सीडी विल बी एन एसेट और अ लायबिलिटी फॉर अ बैंक. सीडी क्या होगा? एसेट होगा, लायबिलिटी होगा बैंक के लिए. लायबिलिटी क्या होगा? Liability, right? So we have seen your CRR has to be maintained as a percentage of the NDTL, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So CD also has to be added to the total liability of the bank. This is also a liability, na? This is a bank borrowing. So it is also a liability for the bank. So bank will have to keep the reserve requirement for the CD as well. Now banks should issue CDs only in dematerialized form. CDs in demat form can be transferred as per the procedure for demat securities. There is no lock-in period for CDs. Banks, FIIs cannot grant loan against CDs. They cannot buy back CDs before maturity. So this is what we have seen as a feature of CDs. Unlike fixed deposit, CDs cannot be closed before maturity. How do you create liquidity in a CD? So if I bought a CD, am I stuck with it, or can I create liquidity from a CD? Is there any way for me to create liquidity out of a CD? Hello?
Can be sold
We sell.
on maturity date.
Correct. So CD can be sold in the secondary market. So you can create liquidity in the CD by selling it in the secondary market. You can't close it prematurely. If you want money, you can sell the CD. It is negotiable. So investors can buy the CD in physical form or in electronic form. CD in physical form are freely transferable by endorsement and delivery. CD is issued in form of usance promissory note, attract stamp duty. Physical certificates are present for payment by the last holder. Payments to be made only by cross checks. So basically, this is how CDs move. CDs cannot be prematurely closed. CDs are are transferred, and whenever somebody is transferring the CD, if he has it in physical form, it has to be given, right? And at the time of maturity, the payment will happen only at the time of maturity to the person who holds the CD. So we've seen CDs and fixed deposits are different. CD is not a mere receipt. It's a negotiable document. That means it can be bought and sold in the secondary market. It is a money market instrument, is tradable in the secondary market, is paid on due date at place of issue. It cannot be in cash before maturity, unlike fixed deposit. Is governed by RBI guidelines relating to period, negotiability, amount, etc. And it attracts stamp duty. Right? So, that is about the financial intermediation business of the bank, with where the bank accepts various kind of deposit and lends various kind of loans. Apart from that, the bank also in today's time sell third party products. Now, why do we call it third party? Because deposit is a product between the bank and the customer. So in a deposit, you will have the bank
And the customer.
and the customer. So two parties. Now, so these are two parties, the bank and the customer. In deposit and loan product, you will have only two parties. However, when the bank is selling insurance, for example, it is this product belongs to another company. The bank is using its network or the relationship with the customer to sell this product. And these are known as third party products. So third party products are products of another company which the bank sells. Right? So bank also sells bonds for the government for India, for example. So it acts, the government would be the third party. It sells mutual funds. It sells insurance. So the bank sells various third party products as well. So in marketing and distribution of various third party products, the bank can do it because it has a vast network and captive customer base. So there are a lot of customers with the bank, and bank can use these customers, this information to sell to the customer. The bank also sells government securities. That means it acts as an agent for the government, which help in enlarge the market for government securities. Banks were permitted to market mutual funds. Now all the branches sell it. So most of the branches sell their third party products. So banks are subsequently allowed to do insurance agency business. Banks to disclose various commission, other fee received. Draft guidelines has been issued by RBI, because RBI is the regulator of the bank. So the bank, it will definitely give the regulations for selling these third party products. Obviously, when the bank is selling these products, the customer this product should not be missold. Missold matlab customer ko zarurat nahi hai, aap us product ko de rahe. We have spoken about this, the suitability of product, or telling all the information about that product. If you're not doing so, you are mis-selling. Mis-selling is a malpractice. You can't mis-sell. So to protect customer from mis-selling, conflict of interest. Address the need for adequate grievance resolution mechanism, operational risk arising from weak internal control mechanism. So we have seen that the regulators are concerned about the investor safety, because if if there's a compromise on the investor safety, safety, the investor will not invest. If the investor does not invest, the entire economic system would be affected, right? So the regulators have taken steps to ensure that the investors' interests are protected. Also, then there is a risk of money laundering. So for that, transaction above 50,000 should necessarily be through the account of the customer. You cannot accept cash for any investment more than 50,000. And there are stricter KYC AML norms, because now this route can also be used for money laundering. So many, I've extorted money from someone, and then I go and buy an insurance out of it. My money is now converted to white, right? So there's a risk of money laundering as well here. So that's why there are strict guidelines to avoid transaction in cash. So in the next session, we are going to understand more about third-party products, including mutual fund, insurance product, and financial planning. Now we need to do so because as bankers, we will not only deal with bank's products, which are deposits and loans, we will also be required to sell these third party products to the customer. So I don't want to start it today. In the meantime, if you have any questions, any doubts about the bank products or the functions of the bank, we can discuss it. We have a couple of minutes left, so we can discuss it, and then we can start with third party products tomorrow, right? So we have a good 7-8 minutes. If you have anything to ask, any questions to ask, please ask it now. So if you don't have questions, then I will ask. So Anu, tell me the other functions of the bank. So financial intermediation is the function of the bank, which is accepting deposit and lending out money. Apart from financial intermediation, what is the other functions of the bank?
Ma'am, provide
Provide
service to the government.
what kind of service does the bank provide to the government? What kind of service does the bank provide to the government? Bhagwat, will you like to answer that question? What are the other functions of the bank apart from financial intermediation? What are the other functions of a bank?
Ma'am, it engages in the selling of the third party of the.
Okay, so bank sells third party products. What else?
It,
Pati, you want to answer? Yeah.
it advises the customer on the investment.
So that is selling third party products. So basically on the suitability of the product, the bank is going to advise. Yeah. What else? So financial intermediation, selling third party product. Swati, would you like to add another function of a bank? Huh? It's not very clear, Swati. If you can be a little louder. I can hear only checks. Okay, anyways. So bank is also a constituent of the payment system. It enables transfer of funds between the payer and the receiver. Correct. Right?
It do KYC of the customer.
No, that is so. See, KYC is a requirement of the function of the bank. The bank does KYC because it is doing financial intermediation. It cannot accept or lend money without knowing the customer. So to KYC is required to be done because the bank is doing financial intermediation. So the primary function of the bank is financial intermediation. For financial intermediation, the bank will obviously have to do the KYC. Again, the main function of the bank is distribution of third-party products. But the third-party products can be sold only when the bank knows the customer well and the suitability of the products for that customer. Right? Okay. Jayanti, how can you classify the deposits accepted by the bank? What is the classification of deposits accepted by the bank? How do you classify the deposits which the bank accepts? Jayanti, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. How do you classify that various deposits accepted by the bank? What is the classification of the deposits accepted by the bank? Ask anybody else can answer this question. Can anybody else answer this question? What is the classification of
Time deposit and demand deposit.
Very good, Sonam. Very good. So the bank accepts two kind of deposits, time deposit and demand deposits. What are the example of demand deposit? Manoj, what is the example of demand deposit? मनोज, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है? डिमांड डिपॉजिट कौन से अकाउंट्स हैं? Okay, answer. Yes, what?
Saving account, checking account.
Correct.
Saving
correct.
accounts.
Saving account and current account. Good. So I'm happy that now you guys are answering the question. I want to remove that hesitation of answering the question and being only mute listeners in the class, in the session. Okay. Good. Saran, what is the difference between recurring deposits and fixed deposits? Difference between recurring deposits and fixed deposits?
May I, ma'am?
Recurring deposit.
Yeah.
Recurring deposit will be by individuals and
What deposits are by individuals?
recurring deposits.
Recurring also or fixed deposit also? Is there a restriction that individuals can't have fixed deposit? No.
Ma'am,
You can have
recurring
both recurring deposit or fixed
recurrence
deposit.
of
I'm sorry?
Recurring deposit is small intervals. Fixed deposit is for a long period of time.
No.
recurring means reoccurs of event continuously means
Correct.
again and
Correct.
again.
Yeah. So a fixed deposit will be for a lump sum amount, where a recurring deposit will be for a small amount happening over a long period of time. So recurring deposit you have to pay again and again. Correct?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll close the session here, and tomorrow again we will continue with third party. But again, my request to you is you guys need to go and work hard on yourself. You have to. So the best way to know about the products is look at, catch one bank. You can, take any bank and look at the various products they offer. So if you look at the products, you will have an idea as to what the banking business is and what are the different kind of products the bank offer. Okay. So we meet tomorrow and we'll continue this.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.